Why do many people who clearly know how to do aerial refueling still fail to do it well? A while ago, when I was carrying out a mission with some flying friends, I discovered that many of them, although they know how to perform aerial refueling, have no idea where their own aircraft should be positioned during the refueling process. If the mission only involves 2 or 3 aircraft, following along is not a big problem. But if dozens of fighter jets take off together and all of them need aerial refueling, then who refuels first and who refuels later? Where should the waiting aircraft stop? Without a unified set of rules, the entire airspace will quickly turn into complete chaos. Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about how multiple fighter jets simultaneously carry out aerial refueling. When it comes to aerial refueling, the air forces of various countries actually have their own regulations. However, currently the most mature, most complete, and the one with the most publicly available information in the world is still the NATO aerial refueling system. Therefore, the content of this episode is also explained according to NATO standards. First, let me show you a basic aerial refueling schematic diagram. The entire aerial refueling process for fighter jets can actually be simply divided into 3 zones. The yellow zone in the middle is the refueling zone. The red zone on the left is called the observation zone. The observation zone is the place where aircraft that have not yet refueled or are waiting to refuel line up. All aircraft preparing to refuel will successively form a left echelon. Whoever is closest to the tanker aircraft has priority for the next refueling. The green zone on the right is called the rejoin zone. As the name suggests, it is the position where aircraft that have completed refueling reassemble and form up again. Whoever is farthest from the tanker usually means they are the last aircraft to finish refueling. Therefore, the standard refueling process for a fighter jet is actually very simple. First, enter the observation zone on the left to wait. After obtaining clearance, enter the refueling zone. After completing refueling, enter the rejoin zone. And finally, wait until all teammates have finished refueling before departing together. Once everyone roughly understands the process, we can practice it by flying. So the first step is to fly the fighter into the observation zone on the left side of the tanker. But the problem is that we only know the observation zone is on the left side of the tanker. Where exactly should the specific position be? Chapter 2 of the NATO Aerial Refueling Standard Procedures has very detailed regulations on this. Unless the lead tanker instructs otherwise, the position of the observation zone depends on whether the tanker is equipped with a rear observer. If it is equipped with a rear observer, the waiting position for the fighter is usually on the extension of the tanker's wing line. Looking from our fighter's cockpit, it means aligning with the extension of the tanker's wings, or having the tanker's 2 engines appear in a straight line in our field of view. This is the standard observation position. At the same time, our fighter should preferably fly slightly higher than the tanker, because the F-18 flight manual mentions that the observation zone position should maintain sufficient altitude so that the opposite wing of the tanker can be seen. The benefit of being a bit higher is also that the pilot can more conveniently observe the tanker's attitude and the aircraft currently receiving fuel. If the receiving aircraft encounters an emergency and needs to withdraw, we are not at the same altitude, so the risk of collision is greatly reduced. As we just said, the observation zone is not limited to only this one position. The manual states that if we are facing a tanker without a rear observer, then our observation position needs to move a bit further forward. Looking from our cockpit, the tanker's left red and right green navigation lights should roughly coincide into a single line with our own, so that the crew on the tanker can more easily discover and observe your position. When we confirm that there is a free refueling position behind the tanker, we can slowly move the fighter from the observation zone into the refueling zone. This process is about the pilot's control of the throttle and stick. You can first reduce speed a little, then descend, letting the fighter slowly pass underneath the receiving aircraft on the left side, and then arrive at the pre-contact position on the right side. The rest is the aerial refueling process itself. Since aerial refueling is a flying skill that improves with practice, as long as everyone practices more, there won't be major problems. After the fighter successfully docks, we need to focus our attention on the refueling pod and keep a close eye on it. Because the refueling time is relatively long, I will skip over it directly. After the fighter finishes refueling, we can exit the refueling zone. Disconnect the refueling drogue, retract the refueling probe, then slowly move the fighter backward and continue moving right into the rejoin zone. Since there are already 2 aircraft in the rejoin zone, the way to join the rejoin zone is also by slowly passing underneath the other aircraft. Finally, we reach the outermost position of the right echelon, and that is fine. The first reference point of the rejoin zone is the same as the observation position. Only this time we have come to the right side of the tanker. So this is the specific process for a fighter jet to carry out aerial refueling. When a large formation simultaneously conducts aerial refueling, as long as all the fighters follow this process in sequence, not so many problems will occur, and safety hazards will also be much smaller. Therefore, in aerial refueling, just the formation flying aspect alone actually contains a great many details. What is truly difficult is not merely inserting the refueling probe. The more advanced, more detailed, and even more important part is following formation discipline and the standard refueling procedures, because aerial refueling is really not just a matter between one aircraft and one tanker. Having seen this, I hope everyone has learned some of the process norms in aerial refueling, and I hope it has been helpful to you. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.